What's up you guys, I'm Dan, this is Frugal Not Cheap, and today we'll talk about why I have a small emergency fund. So first I'd like to say that of course an emergency fund is important. The idea is to have a cushion of cash in case something bad were to happen. Could be loss of a job, could be an unexpectedly large expense, something like that, maybe a health complication. You never know what life might throw at you, and we don't want to have to go and take on debt necessarily each time one of these things happen. This isn't necessarily for things that we can plan for, as in, obviously I know at some point I'm going to need new tires for my car, right? That's not an unexpected emergency. Neither would be my semi-annual car insurance bill or things like that. These we should really be baking into our budget, or at least that's what I do. The emergency fund really is for unforeseen emergencies. So this is something that really every sort of personal finance person will suggest that we prioritize quite a bit because we want to have that emergency fund there so that we're not really living paycheck to paycheck anymore. That provides a whole lot of peace of mind, and again, that safety buffer in case something were to go wrong. Typically what we're talking about here is anywhere between 3 to more like 6 months of our expenses. So for me, with my spending at $2,850, let's just round it up to $3,000. If I were to save up a 6-month emergency fund, that would be $18,000. But I don't have anywhere near that. What I've got is a buffer in my checking account of about $3,000, so that's just a little over 1 month's worth of expenses. And in my savings account, I like to keep another $5,000 or $6,000 or so. So total, we're looking at about $9,000, and that's just a little over 3 months of expenses. So again, that $3,000 buffer in my checking account is really helpful for peace of mind. I used to have to kind of look at my cash flows really carefully because I would try to keep a very close to zero balance checking account and try to deploy all of my cash on hand into investments or savings. But it was actually a lot of work and I don't know, a little bit of mental weight and having to keep track of that. It's a lot more relaxing just to keep that buffer and then know that, you know, if this month's credit card spending is a little bit higher than last month's, I don't have to worry about moving funds around or, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't have to worry about any of that stuff as long as I continue to follow my budget overall, even though it's not every single month, but you know, throughout the year, when looking at it as a whole, then I know that I'm going to be fine. So that's really a good thing. So why though am I keeping a much smaller emergency fund than many others would? Well, that's because I've had the benefit of having been saving for years and having built up a brokerage account. So a brokerage account is just an investment account that doesn't have a tax shelter. So it's not a 401k, it's not a Roth IRA or an IRA. It's just a regular investment account where you're putting after-tax money and you're investing, and then any consequences coming out of the account will also be taxed. So if you've got capital gains, capital losses, short-term or long-term, all of those things are taxed. Just a regular investment account like, say, I don't know, I guess people nowadays would have a Robinhood account or an M1 Finance account, that kind of thing. For me, my brokerage account is with Vanguard. And I actually have another brokerage account with Charles Schwab as well. Again, Vanguard, Schwab, and Fidelity are sort of my 3 favorites in that space. So, am I saying that the brokerage account can be used as an emergency fund right off the bat, or as a place to put in your savings? No, right? Obviously, investing even in you know, mutual index funds is going to carry a lot of risk, and you don't want to be putting your emergency fund into something that could fall very, very sharply just exactly at the wrong time, right? So this is not something that we do to start off with, and not something that I used to start off with in any case. But here's an example to kind of show you what I did and why mathematically I believe it makes a whole lot of sense. So let's say that my emergency fund target is $10,000, just a nice round number. And let's say that I'm able to save $500 a month towards building up that $10,000. And let's assume that the stock market's going to return an average 7% rate of return. That's a nominal rate of return, so takes into account inflation. Within about 19 months of saving $500 a month, you'd be able to build up a balance of just about your target of $10,000. Now, if you were to keep that in the brokerage account, and have that grow again at an average, so it's not going to be consistent, an average rate of return of 7%, then after 138 months, you would have double that. And so even if there were to be a huge crash in the market, 50%, then you'd still have that $10,000 that you wanted. In other words, there are shares that I own in my brokerage account that have appreciated, more than 2x. And so even if the market were to fall 50%, then I would still be able to draw out my capital. And so a lot of that can serve kind of like an emergency fund. And that's why I'm not worried about saving up the other 3 months in cash. In fact, having that 50% drop exactly at the time that I need it is a pretty low likelihood. This is the worst case scenario. In most scenarios, the drop could be much smaller. And so actually, I will be coming out ahead on those funds because they have been deployed in the market and they've been earning a rate of return. So that's really my strategy. So what I did, of course, is I saved up the emergency fund, whatever I actually needed. And then over time, after I saw that my brokerage account balance had gotten to more than double of what my emergency fund needed to be, then I really felt less pressure to keep all that cash on hand, and I deployed more of it and started having a smaller emergency fund. This is something that I've done further down the line though. Of course, I've been investing for quite a long time, but I've been really kind of hardcore on this financial independence, retire early, or this FIRE journey for about 12 years now. So that's my thinking around it. Definitely, I'm not saying that one should invest in stocks and call that their emergency fund right off the bat, right? That makes no sense. Very, very risky. And definitely having, a solid emergency fund, 3 to 6 months, or even more if that makes you more comfortable, definitely a good idea so that we don't have to fall back to debt whenever life throws a monkey wrench at us. But at my stage, the way things are set up, I'm very comfortable having a smaller emergency fund of just about 3 months worth in cash. So I hope you found this kind of thinking helpful. There's always room to kind of analyze and optimize our financial situation in various ways, kind of thinking a little bit outside of the box. If you did like the video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.